Hey guys, Abby here, and in today's video I'm going to give you an update to the Gamma Burst build. We got an amazing update in the hotfix yesterday, January 23rd, 2020, to the Gamma Burst anointment. So we're going to go over that. We're going to go over Gamma Burst in general, and I'm going to give you guys 3 different ways to play this build, as well as how to boss with Gamma Burst flag. So in the hotfix yesterday, Gearbox actually increased the while Gamma Burst is active gain 65% bonus radiation damage anointment. They increased it from 65% to 115%, so we get a 50% increase on that Gamma Burst anointment. So now you're actually going to be doing a lot more radiation damage while you're in Gamma Burst. So basically this anointment works when your Gamma Burst is active. After you spawn in the rift to start your Gamma Burst, you'll see the bar on your screen kind of ticking down for your action skill to end. And while that Gamma Burst is active, you're going to gain 115% bonus radiation damage for whatever weapon you're using that has that anointment on it. You can also stack the Gamma Burst anointment with any on action skill and bonus elemental damages on your shield and grenade. So of course that's not going to kick in until after your Gamma Burst is over, and Gamma Burst is a fairly long duration. It starts at a minimum of 20-second duration, and it can go up to like 45 to 50 seconds depending on if you spec into certain skills and skill augments to increase the duration of your Gamma Burst. Your pet will move around the battlefield while in Gamma Burst, and your pet cannot die in Gamma Burst. However, their health can get ticked down. They still take damage during it. They just will sit at 1 HP basically while their Gamma Burst is active. And then usually in Mayhem 4, usually right after Gamma Burst goes down, your pet will die. Sometimes not, depending on how many enemies you've killed and how cluttered the battlefield is with enemies. Sometimes your pet won't die, but most likely your pet will. There are ways to buff up your pet health regen in the green tree. However, it will lower your damage by quite a bit to go into that green tree because you're going to be missing out on pack tactics and barbaric yop in the blue tree. So I would suggest just dealing with your pet being dead in the downtime. You could also use a stopgap shield to get that 5 seconds of immunity to possibly revive your pet, but sometimes that does get a little sketchy as well. When your pet goes down for good, the enemies will start targeting you immediately, so this is why it's really important to have action skill cooldown. You can spec into that by using the skill head count. This allows you to get your cooldown back using critical hits. So using weapons that chain to other enemies like the redistributor and the brainstormer are really nice for getting your Gamma Burst back almost immediately. You can also find the action skill cooldown perk on your class mod and your artifacts, so you can also stack that as well. There's also an anointment for your shield that will give you increased action skill cooldown rate on action skill end. In my previous Gamma Burst build, I recommended going for the shortest duration possible so that we could get those action skill and elemental damage bonuses up as often as possible. However, with the buff from the hotfix yesterday, I don't think that that is necessary anymore. And having a short duration in Gamma Burst means your pet's gonna die more, so there's gonna be more risk of you dying as well because the enemies are gonna be targeting you more during that downtime. So if you have some decent gear and weapons, I would recommend speccing into Persistence Hunter and Endurance and trying that out, seeing if you like it. It will keep your pet alive for longer, allowing you to do more damage because the enemies are not targeting you. However, you're going to lose that 50% bonus elemental damage on action skill end. Not completely, but that anointment will not be up as often. But I think there are some other anointments that we can take advantage of here on our grenade, especially, that will give us just as much damage during our action skill. So the anointment you want to look out for on your grenade is on grenade thrown. Weapon, grenade, and action skill damage are increased by 25% for 6 seconds. You can find this on any grenade, including the ones in the vending machines, so make sure you take a look at those as well. You can find some awesome purple grenades in the vending machines, but this grenade is going to allow you to do better burst damage, which is really important with Gamma Burst Flak, especially if you're fighting anointed enemies like in Slaughter Shaft But basically, you're going to want to throw your grenade before you use your action skill and against any tankier enemies like big badasses, bosses, anointed, anybody like that. It's going to give you a 6-second increase of 25%, and that's for your weapon, grenade, and your action skill, which is your Gamma Burst. So I would recommend that anointment on any grenade over the elemental one for this Gamma Burst if you are speccing into Persistence Hunter and the skill augment Endurance, because you're going to have your Gamma Burst active longer. And then for your shield, I would either go for a bonus elemental because it is a nice thing to have, especially when the enemies are targeting you, or you could find a action skill cooldown or a health regen anointment depending on what fits your playstyle and what you're most comfortable with. And then for the class mob, we're going to be using Red Fang for mobbing because this is a taunt while Gamma Burst is active. Flax Pet taunts all enemies. And then for bossing, we're actually going to be switching to a Bounty Hunter. This gives Flak a 3% chance to activate any purchased hunt skill when dealing gun damage, and bosses are now treated as humans, beasts, and robotics for Flak's hunt skills. This will help you activate those kill skills when there are no other enemies to kill and you're just focusing on the boss. So once you switch to the Bounty Hunter class mod and a high damage weapon like the Dictator that I'm using here, you can also use the anointment on Grenade Thrown, increase your weapon damage. You can also use an It's Piss grenade to debuff the enemy as well, and an Eruption assault rifle to debuff even further. All of these items are going to make it very easy to do massive single target damage in the Gamma Burst build. Alright, before we get started on the 3 different ways to build Gamma Burst, I'm going to show you guys the skill tree. It's the same across the board for all different variations, so you can change up your gear, see what you like, and you don't have to worry about respeccing. These are the skills. We're going to be going into Persistence Hunter here. So for skill augments, we're going to be going into Empathic Rage, which gives Flak a 20% damage increase while in Gamma Burst, which is really nice, and Endurance, which gives us 3 seconds per kill and gives us 10% pet damage per kill, which is a nice bonus. Alright, now let's talk about the 3 different ways you can play this build. So the 3 different ways are kind of focused on the artifact itself. So you're going to want to look for an Icebreaker artifact, a Flesh Melter artifact, and an Atom Balm artifact. These 3 artifacts are going to increase your damage output depending on the element you're using. So Flesh Melter increases your damage when you're using corrosive weapons. Icebreaker increases your damage when you're using cryo weapons and when you freeze the enemy. And Atom Balm increases your radiation damage and radiation aura damage. Depending on which artifact you're using at the time, you want to use weapons that complement that artifact. So if you're using the Flesh Melter, you're going to want to use at least 2 corrosive weapons. I always have the Eruption here to debuff any larger, tankier enemies with the projectiles after overheating the weapon. And then I like to use the Redistributor. Of course, it helps with Gamma Burst cooldown and it just helps get those dots on everybody. I also really like the Linoge for single target, but of course you can choose whatever single target corrosive weapon you'd like. And then if I'm playing Slaughter Shaft, I always keep a fire weapon on me because you may run into anointed enemies. And then we have our Flesh Melter auto idle. Now, if you're going with the Icebreaker, you're going to want to switch your weapons, those 2 weapons, over to cryo. So we switch to our cryo Redistributor, and then we'll use the Nighthawken, which is a good cryo weapon. Sometimes it's fire at night times, so you might want to switch to another cryo weapon. The only other one I've got on me at the moment is the Dictator, but that works too. And then again, keeping your Eruption and your single target fire damage if you're in Slaughter Shaft. If you don't have to worry about anointed enemies, then it's up to you what else you want to put in that 4th slot. Now, if you want to go Atom Balm, the list of weapons you can use is literally up to you because you don't have to worry about synergizing with a certain element. So for Atom Balm, I would recommend doing the fire if you're running into anointed enemies, and then possibly a radiation weapon could be good just to add to that aura damage that you're going to get. And then I would definitely do a cryo or corrosive for armored enemies, and then the Eruption for the debuff. And that's going to be it for the different playstyles for Gamma Burst. I would say that my favorite is the Icebreaker. I just feel like it gives me the most sustainability, helps keep me healthy because the enemies are getting frozen. Cryo is really good paired with Radiation because Radiation is stripping the shields, Cryo is stripping the armor, and then Radiation is helping with the health again. So they kind of complement each other really well. If you feel like you are surviving just as well, Flesh Melter will enable you to get out a lot more damage, especially if you are fighting in the new DLC with a lot of the loader bots. If you're going against a lot of armor bars, Flesh Melter is really great if you can keep up the mobbing and keep chaining those enemy kills to get max stacks. You're going to be doing 125% more damage to the enemies. So it can be a really high damage build if you are mobbing with a lot of enemies. Personally, the Atom Bomb auto idol, I don't really think it provides us much damage. It's kind of fun and cool to see the synergy between the radiation and get those huge bursts and huge blow-ups of radiation damage, but I don't really notice it taking out too many enemies at once. It gives us an increase in aura damage, aura burst damage, and aura radius, so it's not really a ton of damage that is giving to your weapon. It's just increasing the ticks of damage that the enemy has surrounding them when they're irradiated. So overall, guys, I would just go with whatever you have, right? If you are still kind of farming for everything, I would just choose an artifact that goes well, synergize your weapons with it as best you can, and go from there and try to kind of build out these different options. And then once you have the different options, see what you like the best, change it up depending on what type of enemies you're going against, and just have fun with Gamma Burst, man. I'm so excited that it's back. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope there are some takeaways here so you can further your knowledge of Gamma Burst Flak and create your own unique build that fits your playstyle. If you enjoyed videos like this and you want to see more Borderlands 3 content, definitely hit that subscribe button, ring the bell for notifications. I also stream on Twitch Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time if you want to stop by and say hi and check out the builds that I'm currently working on. That's all for now. I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.